Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here on episode 362. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for coming back. Appreciate everybody listening, especially shout out to my patrons who get these episodes early. And a couple of you I know are getting ready to get some merch from there, which is great. So I'll reach out to you guys and make sure that's going well and happening and all that stuff. So, again, can't thank you enough for supporting the show. All the shows that we're doing here at Inside the Force, which you can easily get to if you get to YouTube and watch all of these, or on all your podcast feeds. You can check them out. Trying to put these out normally, weekly. Of course, you're getting these other shows like Council Sessions, Beyond the Saga, Masters of the Order, Dark Knowledge. All those are kind of scattered throughout as we get those recorded, but some great discussions going on all of those shows. So on this episode of Inside the Force, we are going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about Obi-Wan. I wanted to talk about that one more time. Just kind of give it all a quick review of the entire series, what I thought about some of the characters and what they did with the story. Got some final thoughts I want to just get out there on that. And then of course, I'll get you guys updated on the release schedule. And then I want to kind of focus on the main topic here, which is going to be about the next show that's coming, which is Andor. There's been some news released around about that, roughly what the show is going to be, how the show is going to be laid out over these two seasons. And then the directors have been revealed for what episodes they're directing this first season. So how many of them and how many episodes they're doing. So I'll get all into all that here shortly. But first up, let's talk Obi-Wan real fast. Not real fast, probably. I want to kind of break down a little bit more of what I saw. And I was able to go back and kind of rewatch some of the last episodes this past weekend. Just such a fantastic show. I don't know. I feel like the numbers have been coming out that it's been a really, really successfully streamed show. So a lot of people have been watching it. Like I said, I've watched it more than I have The Mandalorian for sure, more than I have for Book of Boba Fett, which I only watched, while it was going on. I haven't gone back and rewatched it. But Obi-Wan is one of those shows that I just feel like I can keep going back and watching over and over. So I'm really, it's up there. It's up there ranked within the movies, I feel like, because it is one big story. I remember just recently they talked about how Obi-Wan was supposed to possibly be 3 movies, which is basically what we got. If you think about it, we got 6 episodes. If you lengthen each one of those, if you took them in groups, right, the first 2, and you lengthen it a little bit, that's a movie. The middle trilogy would have been, episodes 3 and 4, a little longer. Then, of course, 5 and 6, a little longer. But ultimately, you would have had a trilogy of movies, which I feel like we got anyway. And that's the one thing I will say about the whole thing is I actually think it could have been longer. Could have been probably 7, 8 episodes, because I remember going into episode 4, where he goes and actually saves Leia from the fortress. And I remember thinking, because episode, let me just quickly recap. Episode 1, he learns about the mission, leaves, goes and leaves Tatooine. 2, he's on Dayu. 3, he's on, I can't remember what planet that it was, the one where he meets why am I Tala, and and then he rescues her on episode 4 in the fortress. 5 is when gets back to the rebel base on Kijimi, or not Kijimi. I'm all of a sudden just blanking on stuff like this. On the planet that Roken's on, and then they escape, and then of course the ultimate episode at the end where he fights Vader and then goes to Tatooine, and that's how it ends. So on episode 4, when he goes, to the fortress, I just felt like that happened really quick. And in a movie, I feel like you could have lengthened that time out a little bit. I actually thought maybe it was going to be the next episode where he saves her, but it moved really quickly, and which is fine. Again, for a TV series, you need that, but I think there could have been some things even more fleshed out. I definitely think there should have been more backstory with Reva. You almost could have spent at least half an episode kind of showing her background a little bit more, not just as a youngling when the temple was going through Order 66, but what happened to her after that, how she got found and got brought into the Inquisitor program and blah, blah, blah. I think that could have been cool to see. So that's how I think it could have been actually a little bit better, even though I think it's a really great series. I think that for time purposes, they cut some things and they moved things a little quicker, but they definitely could have had more in there and still made it just as good. So that's my overall thought about the series in a whole. I think as far as length and story, I mean, story is really good. It could have been longer. Either each episode could have been a little longer. That's probably the best thing to do. I would have said you probably could have fleshed out some of these stories a little bit more in each episode that they have. They didn't probably need 8 episodes. Could have just had 10, 20 minute longer episodes, and then I think you could have accomplished a little bit more than what I think I hear some of these fans saying, which is a lot about Reva's backstory, and then of course you've got some more scenes with Vader. I think a lot of people's complaints were that we didn't get enough Vader, enough Hayden. So, and I actually feel like Owen and Beru could have had a lot more screen time. I mean, they were excellent in that last episode. So you definitely could have had more, maybe more Luke. I probably didn't need more Luke, but could have had more Luke. So that's kind of what I think about that. Now, let's talk about some of these characters. Obi-Wan, of course. Loved Obi-Wan, the character, even before this series. I will admit that he wasn't always on my favorites list, of Jedi or even characters. My list, for those of you who don't know, my list, Yoda is my favorite character, followed shortly behind by Boba Fett. And then you got guys like Vader is up there. Actually, growing up, I actually liked Jabba a lot. Jabba the Hutt, I thought that was just an interesting character. And of course, like being a gangster, I thought that was pretty neat. The type of character, that type of creature, species that would be that kind of a gangster. Han, obviously Chewbacca. I feel like they're the pair almost for me. You have to have one, can't have one without the other. And then Leia, Leia's high up there. And more recently, now that was, early on. Now more recently, Asajj Ventress has gone up there in the top character spots. Ahsoka, obviously. I mean, Kanan is up there too. And then you want to talk about the sequel trilogy. I mean, I actually don't have that many. I mean, Rey is definitely a good character. Maybe not one of my favorites, but definitely good. But Asajj is up there. Asajj really jumped up there during the Clone Wars, and ultimately with Dark Disciple, she probably actually jumped into my top 5. So I would say Yoda's up there, Boba Fett, Asajj, and then I would probably say Leia, probably Ahsoka. I would say those 5 are probably my favorites right now, which is funny, right? I mean, Luke's not in there. Padme is really high up there as well. I think if there's some more stories that come out with her, especially if Natalie Portman somehow comes back and plays her again, that would be awesome. But I tell you what, again, Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan is probably number 6 because he really elevated this character, really took this character in a different direction that we didn't know about Obi-Wan. I mean, I was under the impression that we were obviously never going to get a live action version. I figured we'd get something in the books or the stories and the comics and stuff like that would show us what he's been up to these 19 years between episodes 3 and episodes 4. But I never thought we would see a live action version of it. So just getting this is a thrill. And now that we've got it, we've learned so much more about him that, I wasn't aware of him cutting himself off from the Force. I wasn't aware that he was truly miserable. I mean, he was miserable. I mean, there was no way, if he would have stayed this course, that he would have been worth anything come A New Hope. So naturally, we knew we were going to get there based on what we see in Obi-Wan from Alec Guinness in A New Hope. So we knew at some point he was going to kind of break out of this, but it was interesting to see how he was then, because he could have easily been the same. And then you really wouldn't have any kind of transition or growth with the character. So the fact that they did that was pretty impressive. They made him very broken, cut off from the Force, like I said, very unsure of himself, living in fear in a sense. But he was able to break out of it. And his portrayal, Ewan McGregor's portrayal of him is, of course, spot on. I mean, just like he was in the prequels. He was a bright spot of the prequels, no doubt. Hayden, Natalie, Ewan, all 3 of them, I think, were very, very strong characters. Very, very strong actors. And the prequels are getting that love, finally, I feel like, from a lot of fans now, especially with this series coming out. I think a lot of people probably went back and watched the prequels, especially episode 3 again, after they've seen this. I mean, it makes me want to go back and watch them more. So anyway, Obi-Wan, great, just a great character growth. It was, like I said, it would have been pretty boring to see him be the same throughout the series. And, what we know, a continuation of 3 to 4. But it's a drastically different character and situation that we're seeing him in when we first opened on the series. And it takes this next character I'm going to talk about, Leia, to bring it out of him. And man, what a delight that Leia was in this series. Did not expect that. I think I said it before, but I anticipated something like Leia's kidnapping to be the only thing that could draw him out of Tatooine. So I feel good about that. But to be honest, I never anticipated her being such a big role, such a big character in the series, and one that's just impactful for Obi-Wan. He says it at the end of the series, Bail says, we can never thank you. And he says, no, she's already done that. And that's exactly what she did. She she saved him. Not just, not only did he save her, but she actually in more terms saved him. So that was awesome. The little Vivian that played her was fantastic. I want more little Leia. She resembled Carrie. Her mannerisms were spot on, Princess Leia. And, hearing about her mother and her father at the end there, I mean, again, I had a lot of questions about how much she knew about them and how much she was told about them. So the fact that they answered those questions, I think just was really cool. I'm so glad that that's happened. I'm so glad that they went there and did that. So Leia was definitely, dare I say she made the series? I mean, she made it definitely better. But she definitely brought the series into another level. Another surprise, I feel like, and it wasn't until the end of the series, was, Owen and Beru. Very, very impressed with how they acted with the danger that was imposed by the Inquisitor on Luke. I think they truly acted like Luke's parents and guardians, and were there protecting him with their lives. Which again, I anticipate that we kind of all knew that, but we never saw it. And the fact that we were able to see that and see them, band together and defend their farm, defend Luke, I think that was really cool to see. And I'm glad we got to see that for sure. I'm glad we just got to see that happen. I'm just really impressed with Beru's determination and dedication to Luke and love for him. I just, you don't really see that in A New Hope. You kind of get a grumpy old Owen. So the fact that almost like, it's like they're, the feeling that you kind of get from Owen and Beru in A New Hope is that it's been a burden taking care of Luke, almost, right? It's like they don't want him to go because they know they have to protect him, but they don't really want to protect him because, he's not his child. He's not their child. That's kind of the sense that at least I got in some of these viewings of A New Hope, because, it seems like Owen's just always riding him about getting his chores done and doing this and doing that. You can't leave, So it just felt a little bit like that. Now it could have been, teen angst, Luke being 19 and wanting to leave, and them still trying to protect him, even though that, the times come where they need to let him go. But this truly showed to me how much they actually do care about Luke. So I think that it adds a lot more context to A New Hope. So that was really good. Of course, we've seen them a lot in other mediums, the Inquisitors, but we actually got live action versions of them now, especially Fifth Brother. I believe it was not second. I think it was sixth or seventh sister that's in there, along with third sister. But I think the Inquisitors are pretty interesting. We've gotten them again in comics, and of course, Jedi Fallen Order. There's Inquisitors in there. But, the whole thing with Vader hunting down Jedi, again, what we knew in the past before the Inquisitors came out, the impression that he was kind of out there on his own hunting Jedi. Now, I don't know if the Inquisitors are from Legends. I know some of you listening probably do. I'm assuming they are. I just don't know the stories that they were in on the Legends side. But my first real encounter with them, I believe, was maybe most of yours, which was Star Wars Rebels. And then, like I said, in the comics, they've been popping up in the Vader series. So, again, Inquisitors, it just makes sense because, Vader needed some help tracking down Jedis and fighting Jedis. So what better way to counter them? Counter Jedi with Jedi. Because most of them, if not all of them, are former Jedi, as you learn with Reva. So that was pretty cool to see. Of course, we saw the live action version of the Fortress, which we saw in Jedi Fallen Order. But this was pretty cool. I mean, we didn't even see half of it, but the whole tombs people, trapped or whatever, frozen, that was pretty interesting. Wouldn't mind getting more backstory on that. But ultimately, great use of the Inquisitors. I feel like, I know the look of the Grand Inquisitor threw everybody off, which honestly I definitely believe that could have been better, but doesn't take me out of the story whatsoever. Finally, Vader. This show definitely wouldn't have been the same without Hayden Christensen. If he wasn't there, I don't believe you could have done anything without the mask on. You had to have him there. And the way he walked in the Vader suit, the way he acted, I mean, it was spot on again. Spot on. David Prowse. The fighting style of Vader was awesome. Haven't seen that before. So overall, I mean, and man, the part where his helmet's cracked and he's speaking and James Earl Jones is right there too. That was brilliant. Oh man, it was so awesome. So I'm really happy about how they handled Vader. I know a lot of people wanted more Vader time. They wanted more Hayden. I feel like we just got enough. I feel like we got enough because I get it. You're trying to introduce some new characters. You're trying to make them more prominent in the show. I mean, that's why Reva, and that's why she probably had more screen time than Vader, because you have to have some newness to the series. You have to introduce new characters. You can't just rely fully on old characters. So I get it. I get that you're getting the new ones in there. And Vader, I mean, it's just you just got to keep him in the shadows for a little while before he breaks out, which is what they did. I loved it. I think that was great when we get him coming through that town and force choking all those people, and then basically almost killing Obi-Wan the first time. But just those conversations they had in that final episode is just phenomenal. Again, Vader has been so complex. I think, again, when the prequels came out, I remember a lot of people saying, we don't need this. We don't need to see Anakin's downfall. We already know the story. We don't need to see it, kind of thing. I wanted to see it. I thought it was interesting to see how this little boy becomes Darth Vader. I mean, a lot of people say that takes him out, kind of diminishes the character, which completely disagree, because I think it actually just adds to the character. I mean, you've got a guy that is arguably the most feared creature and person in the galaxy, and lo and behold, he was just a kid that made wrong decisions and was manipulated into turning evil. So I love that part. I love that story. Now, again, what we've learned in other stories, mainly the comics, is that he is still struggling with loss. He's still struggling with the fact that he lost Padme. Now, I truly do believe him when he says that he killed Anakin. Anakin's not around anymore. I definitely believe that. But as Luke discovers that there's still good in him, there is a little part of Anakin still in there trying to, break out, trying to find Padme. I mean, he's desperately trying to reunite with Padme this whole time, which again is something that just adds more weight to the character, adds more context to the original trilogy. It's a really tragic story, and I think the more that we can fill in the gaps between these movies, I think it's awesome. I'm curious, like for example, I don't know the Star Wars comic series, if you guys are all reading that or not, but with that book, they've definitely filled in the gaps of the original trilogy. The comic first volume takes place right after episode 4, leads right into episode 5, and then right now the series, it's volume 2 out there, Star Wars volume 2, it takes place right after Empire and it's leading up to Jedi. So they have filled in those gaps. I'm curious, after they reach Return of the Jedi, are they going to continue on after Return, or are they going to reset and start filling in the gaps between the prequel movies? Because episode 1 to 2, you've got 10 years, and then of course you've got episodes 2 and 3, which are the 3 years of the Clone Wars. Now, the 3 years between Clone Wars, I think you may not have to, obviously, because we have the Clone Wars TV series. But it'd be cool to see still a comic series that goes over other stories beyond what we see in the Clone Wars series. But it's definitely those 10 years between 1 and 2, there's a lot there, because that's a big gap between movies. You've definitely got books like Queen's Hope and Queen's Shadow and Queen's Peril that takes place and talk about Padme. You've got Brotherhood, which I just finished up. You've got other books coming out that are set between those times. So I think we're going to get some. I'd be curious to see if that comic does do that. But anyway, that would just add so much more. And then of course, the big gap between 3 and 4, which is 19 years. Definitely getting a lot of stories there right now. Comics, books, of course the series is, The Bad Batch, Obi-Wan, Andor, Rebels is in between there. So you've got a lot of stories in between there to fill in those gaps. But the Vader story is definitely interesting to get that full story. I think it'd be worth it. I think people are interested in that for sure. So anyway, overall, Kenobi was phenomenal, and I loved how they dealt with these characters. I loved how they dealt with Luke and Leia especially, and it all makes sense. I believe it still lines up pretty well with episode 4. I think I've heard some people out there talking about how it's kind of ruined it, and killed some continuity. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't figured that out yet, because I think it still lines up pretty well. Because you got to remember, there's still 9 years until A New Hope, so still a lot that could happen between that time that would not jeopardize what happens in A New Hope. So yeah, I think we're good, and I think I'm gonna keep rewatching that series. I think it's worth that. So okay, before I get into Andor, one other bit of news just to mention. Those of you looking to go to Star Wars Celebration next year, which is in Europe, in England, I believe, London, the tickets are on sale right now. You can go to StarWarsCelebration.com and get those tickets. Still think that they're available, so I think that they came out a week or two ago, a week and a half ago. So go get your tickets to Star Wars Celebration London if you're going. I will not be going, unfortunately, but I will be going back to the next one when it comes to the States, which I'm assuming will be 2024. Okay, your release schedule, novels, just not this past Tuesday, but last week, June 28th, Shadow of the Sith dropped. I started listening to that. Can't wait to get into this story. There's a lot of stuff out there about it. There's a lot of stuff people talking about how it's kind of a lot of details that we should have known before the sequel trilogy came out. So I knew that would happen, but I can't wait to talk about that once I get through that. I think Hannah started that as well, so we're going to deep dive into that on Beyond the Saga at some point. July 26th, you've got Padawan coming out. August 16th, you got The Princess and the Scoundrel. And then you've got some High Republic Phase 2 books, I believe, coming out. Convergence on the 15th. Path of Deceit on November 1st. And that's November 15th by chance, sorry. And then Path of Vengeance next year, 2023, May 2nd, which would be the conclusion of Phase 2 of the High Republic, apparently. So those are the novels in the short future here. Comics, this past week, today basically, July 6th, The Halcyon Legacy #4 came out. Next week, July 13th, we got The Mandalorian #1, which is just a recap comic version of season 1. Bounty Hunters #25, and Han Solo and Chewbacca #3, and also Dr. Aphra 21. July 20th, you got Star Wars 25, Vader 25, Han Solo and Chewbacca #4, and then on the 27th, Dr. Aphra 22, Obi-Wan Kenobi #3. So those are your comic books coming out the rest of this month. Okay, so definitely want to just talk briefly about Andor. That's the next series coming at us. August 31st is going to debut 2 episodes. It is a 12-episode series. So that means we're going to be getting episodes for 11 weeks. Can't wait for that. Watched the teaser again tonight before I recorded. Just, man, it really looks good. It really looks very, very well done. Well shot. Cinematography looks great. So love what that series is, how it's looking so far. So I won't get into really what I think it's about or anything right now, but some details that came out about the writers and directors. So wanted to kind of share that with everybody. Looks like, so as everybody should know already, Andor takes place 5 years prior to Rogue One. They're kind of saying 5 years prior to the Battle of Scarif, which is where Andor obviously passes and dies. 12 episodes. Second season is due to start filming this November. So what's happening, which at least what we're getting told right now. So at first, I remember I talked about it on the show, I think, that the rumor was that there was going to be 3 seasons of Andor. Well, it seems like that has been nixed, and the series is now going to be 2 seasons, both with 12 episodes. So 12 episodes season 1, 12 episodes of season 2. And the way it seems like it's been structured, at least according to reports right now, is that the first 12 episodes of season 1, or all of season 1 basically, is going to be covering the course of a year. So we're going to be leading up to about 4 years before Rogue One, when the second season starts. So the first season, 12 episode, covers 1 year. And then apparently, if you think about 12 episodes being divided into 4 segments of 3. So basically 3 episode arcs. Each of those arcs are going to represent 1 year closer to Rogue One. So episodes 1, 2, and 3 of season 2 are year 4 to 3. And then 3 to 2, 2 to 1, and then 1 leading up to Rogue One. will be the last 3 episodes, 10, 11, 12 of season 2. Does that make sense? I hope that I think I explained that right. So 5 years to 4 years will be the first year, which would be season 1. And then episodes 1, 2, and 3 of season 2 will be year 4 to 3. And then 4, 5, and 6, year 3 to 2. 7, 8, 9, year 2 to 1. 10, 11, 12, year 1 leading up to Rogue One. And that's what apparently is being told, that this thing is going to literally butt up right against Rogue One. All right, so hope that makes sense, but that's what they're saying. Tony Gilroy, who is the showrunner, he was apparently scheduled to helm at least the pilot, but travel restrictions due to the pandemic kept that from happening. So Toby Hayes directed 6 episodes of the first season. So here are the directors of the season 1. Toby Hayes, who did episodes 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10. And then you got Susanna White. She came in and directed 3 episodes, 4, 5, and 6. And then Benjamin Caron came in and directed 7, 11, and 12. So you got 3 directors there over the course of 12 episodes. And then the writers. So you've got 4 writers that worked on season 1, and Tony Gilroy, who again is the showrunner, wrote episodes 1 through 3 and 11 and 12. Dan Gilroy wrote episode 4 through 6. And then Stephen Schiff wrote episode 7, and then Bo Willimon wrote episodes 8, 9, and 10. So you got 4 writers and 3 directors. So there you go on Andor. Interesting how they're going to cover again that series leading up to Rogue One. So one season is going to cover 4 years basically, which is going to be cool. I think it's just a lot. I mean, you're going to fit in a lot of important information in those 3 episodes of season 2, each of those 3 episodes. Those 3 episode arcs. I mean, that's going to cover a lot and take up some big steps. Now, I don't believe, now this is a theory, part of me doesn't believe that, like, for example, episode 1, 2, and 3 of season 2, like, I don't believe those 3 episodes takes place over the course of a year. I just think sometime during that year, this takes place, this event, which I think may span over a day or 2 or a week. But to think that spans over a year, I think is not smart, because I think it's got to be some contained storyline that it's connected to, very similar to how they did it in Clone Wars with those 3 or 4 episode arcs sometimes. I do think that the first season could have a time jump, throughout, but then again, I don't know. Those first 12 episodes could take place over the course of a month or 2, but during that 5-year period, 5 years within Rogue One, which is the same time that Star Wars Rebels happens. I think, there could be some connectivity there for sure. Again, I don't want to kind of deep dive into my speculation yet for the show, because I want to think about it a little bit more, but I definitely think there's opportunity there to make some connectivity to Obi-Wan possibly, or even majorly to Rebels and or Ahsoka that's coming out. Because again, Rebels is happening at the same time. You could have, maybe not in this first season, maybe it's the second season, but you could have, some interactions with Hera possibly, or even Kanan or Rex. Maybe not Ahsoka, but possibly. So those are all definitely possibilities I think that could eventually make their way into Andor to kind of show that universal connectivity, which I think is what I've been hearing more and more from the Lucasfilm execs, like Kathleen Kennedy and Doug Chang and Filoni and Favreau. I think they keep talking about making sure that all these shows and movies and stuff like that are just connected. So what better way to do that than obviously introduce some characters? Now, again, I will say I am not only excited about Cassian Andor's story, but I'm probably a little more excited for Mon Mothma's story. That's where I want to. And then, of course, Bail Organa, will probably be in it. He's a good connective tissue through all this rebellion stuff. But Mon Mothma is interesting. Again, seeing that trailer and seeing her in the Senate again, that's some pretty cool stuff. And again, I can't remember if I mentioned on the show or not, but I really want to see her scenes back in Revenge of the Sith. I think especially now that she's coming back, same person is coming back and playing her, Genevieve O'Reilly, I believe. I just think you have to put those scenes back in. It just makes it, or here's what you do. You don't put it back into Revenge of the Sith, but you show them as flashbacks during this series where, her and Bail and Natalie Portman's, obviously Padme's character is starting plant the seeds of the rebellion. So I think you got to see them at some point. You got to show those some point. That would be important. So again, can't wait for that storyline with her. Can't wait to learn more about Cassian and how he grew up in this. I think we're going to definitely see flashbacks of him as a kid. But this is a very interesting series. Very interesting choice of character to do. So looking forward to it. And it's not very far away. It's less than 2 months away, about a month and a half, and I'm pumped. I cannot wait. So let me know what you all think about the Andor series, if you're excited for it now that Obi-Wan's done. Let's do some comments here. I haven't responded to some of these yet, so I apologize, guys out there, girls out there. Let's go back to the last episode 361. Thrawn Addict, of course, one of my main patrons here, appreciate you, says enjoyed the Mandalore podcast episode 5 review. So that's the other show I do with Martin Donaldson over there. Definitely makes my work day go faster. Yeah, that's definitely, because those things are long. Yeah, when we deep dive into episodes on that podcast, the Mandalore podcast. So just so everybody doesn't necessarily listen to that, what it is it's a podcast I was invited to be the co-host on. The whole thing was started by Martin Donaldson, who goes by Cyber Ren. He asked me to be on the show at the first season of The Mandalorian. We were just going to cover The Mandalorian, but then we ended up branching off into all the shows of Disney Plus because, obviously Mandalorian has big gaps in between episodes. So we did, we covered the Clone Wars, we covered the Bad Batch, Book of Boba Fett, obviously season 2 of Mandalorian, and then now Obi-Wan, and then we're going to deep dive into Andor and on top of that. Basically what we're doing is we get on there and, we talk about every little detail. So it takes a long time. It's fun. It's fun. It's about, it's usually at least 2 hours. Sometimes it's 3 hours, and we've been known to go even further than that. So I get to throw on, it does make your day go faster. Also, he says, would definitely be up for a Vader and Fallen Order TV series. Not so sure about season 2 of Obi-Wan. Really loved Obi-Wan. It feels like it ended perfectly. And if you do season 2 not with Vader, I feel like stakes won't be ever as high. Don't get me wrong, would still be excited for a season 2. I probably should have talked about that in the opening when I talked about Obi-Wan. But yes, I agree with that. I think season 2, I think the only way you can do season 2 is if you have Maul come back. I think that's it. If you don't have Maul, I don't think you can't have Vader. Definitely don't think you can do a season 2. So I think the storyline has to be Darth Maul. Because we have to figure out still how he got on, I believe it's Malachor, after we now know that he's been running Crimson Dawn. So Crimson Dawn can, and we also know Crimson Dawn goes away for a while, and then Kira kind of brings it back. So what's that downfall? Maybe it's Obi-Wan that causes that. So I think that would be cool. Season 2, that would be the only way I think you can do it. Anyway, also another comment from, looks like this might be JoJo. Love season finale, maybe my favorite lightsaber duel of all time. Was very emotional when Obi-Wan cut Vader's helmet off. The voice was amazing. Obi-Wan saying sorry was really sad. Me being selfish, would have liked a little bit more dialogue between the two. I thought maybe Obi-Wan might be tired. I may have tried to bring Anakin back to the light due to the line, Obi-Wan once thought as you do in Return of the Jedi, but I think he saw Anakin and was too far gone, so didn't mind it really. Oh man, that is awesome. That is awesome. Obi-Wan once thought as you do. That is actually, man, I think they actually missed the mark on that. They could have had something like that in there. That would have been really cool connection. Man, that's really good. I like that. I definitely think that was a missed opportunity. Okay, Thrawn on our Beyond the Saga show on volume 11 of the comic series, Star Wars comic series. He says, great Beyond the Saga episode. Love this whole storyline and thought Queen Trios was a fantastic character. I would have loved to see her in live action. Also really enjoyed the aspect of alliances and using planets for resources throughout this book and previous ones. Totally agree. This comic series, Star Wars comic series, has been phenomenal. Got 2 more to go, and they're sitting on my desk over there. I got to finish those, and we got to do Beyond the Sagas on those. And then, of course, our recent council session we just put out, which asked the question, is Obi-Wan the greatest Jedi? Thrawn Attic again says, great discussion, guys. I think if you pictured your perfect and ideal Jedi, you would think of Obi-Wan because he has a bit of everything and is always by the book and disciplined. Revenge of the Sith and Obi-Wan show definitely displayed his power and swordsmanship, so think now ranks him higher. What might let him down is maybe having to train Anakin straight from being a Padawan. I wonder how different he would have been if he had more time with Qui-Gon. Very true. Overall, I might not say he is the most powerful Jedi, but definitely he is the best. It can be unfair because Obi-Wan had more screen time than other Jedi. And then JoJo says he agrees. Totally agree with that. I think Obi-Wan has had a lot of screen time now. So has Anakin. I definitely think that, I mean, obviously there's a lot of Jedi. There's been a lot of Jedi over the years. There's definitely probably, looking back, there's probably bigger stories of Jedi back there that could deem them the greatest, but we just haven't seen them. We don't know about them. So you're right. Based on the ones we've seen and what we know about them, Obi-Wan probably is up there. And I would probably put him up there. Even though, again, I think Yoda, once we get more stories of Yoda, especially when he was younger, I think ultimately he'll be the greatest Jedi. But it's hard to say based on how it ended with Yoda. So good comments, everybody. Thank you for those. And again, I'll hit some replies back up on here. And yeah, that's our show for today. Again, thank you everybody for listening, for watching. Head over to patreon.com/InsideTheForce if you want to support the show. Got some great perks on there. Putting up some great content exclusively to Patreon. There's going to be more of those coming up. So if you want to get all of our content, go over there, and just for a couple bucks a month, you can do that. Really, really do appreciate the support, though. And like I said earlier, the Mandalore podcast, a little bit of hiatus right now until Andor comes on. But if you want to get really deep dive episodes of Obi-Wan and other past shows, go to the Mandalore podcast on all your podcast feeds. And then, of course, on this feed and this YouTube channel, we've got other shows like Council Sessions, Beyond the Saga, Masters of the Order, and Dark Knowledge, all coming out with new episodes shortly as we go. But as always, you can get Inside the Force here weekly on YouTube or on your podcast feeds. There's links all over the place in the descriptions below. Thanks, everybody, really, truly, again, for supporting the show and being with me. And I look forward to having some more Star Wars discussions with you guys and having you guys, participate and send me some questions and comments and whatever you want to do. And we'll keep this conversation going and keep our thoughts going. So, as always, have a great week. Take care, everybody. Hope everybody has a great week. Go watch some Star Wars, and I'll see you next week. May the Force be with you.